Good morning, guys. How are we doing? Today is the 16th of August, 2022. And I just wanted to share a little thing with you this morning. Yesterday, I let go of a piece of baggage that had been weighing me down since 2003, 2001, 2002, around there. When my dad passed away in 2000, sorry, my nose, it's so itchy this morning. My dad passed away in 2000 and I was there when he passed away. I was there at his bedside. And he turned around to me and he said, "Look after your mother. Promise me to look after your mother." So I did. That was a really bad decision to make a promise to a dying person like that. And it was a very bad decision on his part to ask me to do that. My mother was not exactly the easiest person in the world to get along with, and try as I might and had done over the years and was still trying to do so. I ended up, her at one point, throwing my 2 children, one of which was a toddler at the time, out in the rain with only the clothes on our back, 10 days after my father's funeral. Not allowing us back in the house because I'd chosen to go down. I said that we needed to go and get food for dinner because what was in the house was not ready to be eaten, or it was too old to be eaten. And she literally threw us out in the rain in Australia. So it was torrential rain and we ended up in a women's refuge in a completely different town, which is a completely different story. But the point is, I held on to that guilt because I had broken my promise to my dad. And even though over the next few years, I kind of tried my best to help my mum, because no one else was going to do it. And no one else was doing it. Because she was not a nice woman. She was not a nice person to get on with. It was difficult. And they were quite happy for someone else to do it because it meant that the responsibility wasn't theirs. So yeah, I've been holding on to that guilt for a very, very long time. I felt I couldn't face my dad if I ever saw him again. But you know when you get those feelings when they're around? And you know when you kind of know in your knower that they're about? Well, he was about yesterday. And I was able to let that go. Finally. After 22 years, I could let it go. That I hadn't let him down. I'd done what I could. And that's all he ever asked of me, was to do what I could. The man was dying at the end of the day. He was getting what little words out he could. If we'd been able to sit down and have the conversation, it would have been a very different conversation. And I know that now. But what I'm going to say is this. When you promise something to somebody, especially on their deathbed, it's not black and white. It's never black and white. And all you can do is your best. But you cannot feel the guilt of making a deathbed promise and not being able to fulfill it in the way that you think that it needs to be fulfilled. Pardon me. Oh, it's early in the morning. My body wants breakfast. You need to understand that they're trying to get their last words out. You need to read it for what it is and not what they've said. Deathbed promises are one of the most heart-wrenching things. We think that we're doing the right thing because we're letting them pass over quietly. But then we take on that burden of that promise. And it can be so painful and so hurtful and so guilt-ridden if you can't fulfill your promise, that all you're doing is hurting yourself. And that's not what that person would ever want for you. They wouldn't want you hurting. They wouldn't want you feeling guilty over something that is nothing to do with you. Just remember, they're trying to pass and they're trying to get all their words out. They're trying to get you to remember what the passwords are and what the PIN number was for their card and all the other things. But they would never put on you something you couldn't do. And they would ask you to do something using as few words as possible. And what they mean is, just do your best. And if your best is, you need to pass it over to other people, then you pass it over to other people. Delegation is not a failure. It's getting other people to step up and take on their part of the responsibility as well. Take that in mind. My love goes out to all of you. Look after yourselves today. And let that stuff go. Don't feel guilty. If you needed to hear this today, don't feel guilty anymore. Don't. It's not all on you. It was never all on you. Never all on you. You got this. I love you guys heaps. Have an awesome rest of your day. Blessings.